especially with the rise of social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think people have lost a bit of the confidence that they had that technology would help them, will help humanity become better, and we just became the product. Like how can we get sold more ads so these guys can make more revenue? And yeah, we felt that people lost the trust and the confidence in technology. So we thought that we could try to bring that back, and I think that comes down a little bit to the transparency concept. It's like our phones and our products are transparent because we want to be transparent to our users and so on.
You mean transparent in terms of your communications, or you mean
communications,
like the physical aspect that it's
both? Actually, both.
Okay.
Both in our case, but at the same time, the transparency was, I guess, metaphorical, a metaphorical way to actually show that we are transparent to our users, and also at the same time give this bit of retro vibe of like when technology was seen as a good thing for humanity.
What if technology could create less noise and more meaning? After 6 years at the smartphone unicorn OnePlus, David Sanmartin founded Nothing to make technology fun again. Nothing is a consumer tech company that champions transparency and a minimalist design, asking, what if we rebuild trust in tech by making things honest again? All built with 60 tons of recyclable materials and preventing 800 tons of CO2 emissions. Welcome to Reinventing Capitalism, the podcast where I, Claudia Thomas, decode the success of for-profit impact businesses through the stories of their founders. Our goal is to inspire you towards a purpose-driven career, because life's too short for boring jobs and soul-crushing corporations. Quick note before we get back to the episode. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. 2 things. The first is a huge thank you for listening and tuning into the show week after week. It means the world to me. And the second is that we are just getting started. If you enjoy what we do here, please join the 14% of people that listen to this podcast regularly and follow us on this app. I promise to do everything in my power to make this show as good as I can, now and into the future. Thank you.
David, I wanted to start with your origins.
Okay.
I wanted to know, before Nothing, before OnePlus, before you moved to China, who was David?
So I was born in Barcelona. I was also raised in Barcelona. I studied biomedical science and actually didn't finish.
Okay.
On my 3rd year of my bachelor's degree, which here in Spain is actually 4 years, as opposed to like some other countries. I got the opportunity of moving to China to do, I guess, like kind of like some, I don't know how to call it, but basically
like exchange or
yeah, I mean, it was basically working for free, and then you get a bit of experience.
internship.
Kind of, but I don't know. It was not exactly like a proper internship.
Okay.
It was a bit of a weird one, but yeah, it was. Yeah, let's call it internship just for the sake of finding like an appropriate word. But yeah, I got the opportunity of doing this sort of internship in an e-commerce company before AliExpress was a thing, and in one of the precursors of AliExpress, and something that was supposed to be like a couple of months type of thing ended up being a couple of years. Then after that, so I was in Shenzhen for those 2 years, working for that company. Then I moved to Beijing to work for the competitor. I was there for a couple of years. Back then, I was also writing for Shataka, which is this, I guess, like tech blog. But it's fairly well known in Spain or in Spanish. Prior to that, while I was in university, I was also working for the competitor of that blog, just talking about Apple products. And I guess that's probably what landed me, I guess, like the internship and then the job later on, like being able to talk about tech and write about tech and think about marketing in that sense. But yeah, I moved to Beijing. We worked for another e-commerce company. Actually, it was one of the first Chinese companies that went into the New York Stock Exchange on IPO.
What was the name?
Light in the Box.
Light in the Box.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's that I think it didn't work out very well for them to do the IPO, unfortunately. But yeah, it was, I think, the largest because it was the only one in terms of e-commerce from China, and then AliExpress So Alibaba Group went and did their IPO, and it was a lot bigger.
Okay.
And a lot more successful too. But yeah, I spoke to the CEO back in the day because I saw an opportunity with a certain brand of smartphones that is a competitor of ours right now, and actually that sells fairly well both in China and actually here in Spain as well.
What's the name?
Xiaomi. And he didn't want to do it. He was like, oh, I don't want to help a Chinese company become famous outside of China thanks to us. And I was like, but you're gonna make a lot of money out of that. He wasn't having it, so I decided to, start my own website. So I was selling this product into Spain. We sold quite a few units, and I guess at some point during that time I was still working for Light in the Box and also doing this kind of like a side job the weekends and stuff like that. And it was super scrappy, but that helped me understand a lot of things about e-commerce, logistics, finance, hacking phones and stuff like that, to be able to put the right language into it. And in the end, randomly, Carl Pei reached out to me. We knew each other from his time at Meizu.
That's for the audience, for whoever doesn't
who
know
Carl Pei is. So Carl Pei is one of the co-founders of Nothing, also the CEO, and before that he also co-founded OnePlus.
Before we get into OnePlus, how many years had you been in China for?
Before OnePlus, I think 4 years.
4. And how did it feel to be in China as a Catalan person from Barcelona?
That doesn't speak any Chinese, doesn't know anything,
exactly.
cannot read, wasn't thinking of staying in China at all. Thought that China was kind of like Japan, but worse. And then there was a communist country, and then all these preconceptions kind of like were blown away, because like it's not like anything like what I was thinking it was going to be in a good way. Actually, I would say it was a very welcoming country. It's a very capitalistic country.
Yeah.
Government things aside, and actually I felt quite comfortable. It was actually something that I wasn't expecting, and yeah, I guess like the only issue that I had is like I met my girlfriend, now wife, and because she's Chinese, I didn't have the need to learn properly Chinese. And yeah, I guess.
So you're speaking English, I assume?
Yes. I mean, I know some basic Chinese enough to be able to survive, but I would say not to the extent that I should know after 6 years in China.
Okay. So you're living in China, you've met your wife, girlfriend, now wife, and then at some point you meet Carl Pei, the current founder of Nothing. But put us in the situation, in the moment when you met him, and what happened then.
When I met him, I was still working for the first e-commerce company, which was called DL Extreme. I was in Shenzhen, he was in Hong Kong. He was PR for Meizu, which is, I guess, like a company that was actually quite successful making, I would say, audio products like MP3, MP4 players, MP5 as well.
Okay.
Back in the day, they did the transition to smartphones. They put out actually some decent devices and maybe not so decent ones, like the one that I asked Carl for a review unit.
Okay.
So he did a review on Shataka. I think it was the Meizu MX2. It wasn't a good device, and I don't know if he liked the fact that I actually said what I thought instead of like pampering him and saying, oh, it's a great device just to get more devices. But I felt that integrity was important, so I said what I thought about the product. And I didn't hear from him for a while. I know that he went to work for Oppo after that, and that's all I knew. And then that's the thing, is like out of the blue, I don't know if because he knew that I was doing e-commerce related things and that e-commerce was going to be an important part of the plan for OnePlus. Then he decided to reach out to me. I happened to have to travel to Hong Kong for visa reasons. I had to renew my work visa, and I had to kind of like exit mainland China. So Hong Kong was the easiest way. And I told him, okay, like when I'm back from Hong Kong, let's talk. So I explained to him what I have been working on with my own website and everything, and he kind of like explained a bit of the idea and the concept for OnePlus.
Okay.
I thought it was a terrible name, a terrible logo, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me back in the day. But then he kept calling me when I was back in Beijing.
So why did it not make sense? Because OnePlus was still a phone manufacturer, right?
No, it didn't exist.
Oh, well, okay, so, sorry.
Yeah.
It didn't exist at the time, true, okay. So
Correct.
what was his vision of it?
So the concept was to basically make a smartphone company that was very focused on e-commerce.
Okay.
To be able to compete against like certain other companies that were doing a bit of a similar model and to be able to use some resources that were already pre-existing from the company that was backing us up. And yeah, that was, I don't know, to me it didn't quite click then.
Okay.
And I went back to Beijing and I thought, like I'm just gonna continue doing my thing. This startup thing, it's very risky. Why should I get into it? Then I kept thinking about it, and then he kept calling me and sending me CVs. This guy could be from your team, and this girl could be from your team. You could have a very decently sized team. This is gonna be fun, and it just kept me thinking, and yeah, I don't know. There was something that at some point I was thinking is like, okay, 20-something years old, I'm in China, fuck it, let's do it. So I think they were introducing OnePlus as a brand to Chinese media, actually like 2 streets away from where I used to work. And I messaged Carl. It's like, hey Carl, I thought about it. What if we meet in a Spanish restaurant that I know in Sanlitun, which is I guess like the embassy neighborhood. And yeah, we met there. We had some tapas, and then he showed me a bit of like the concept for the OnePlus One, which was the first smartphone that we ever made. And he asked me, he's like, how many do you think you're gonna sell? So I thought about the numbers that I was doing with my website, which was only selling to Spain. And I thought, okay, so like if we do this, we do that, 1 million units. And then I guess like he was expecting me to say, okay, like 30,000, 40,000. But no, 1 million. And 1 million we did on the first year.
You sold 1 million smartphones on the first year.
1 million OnePlus Ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long was the OnePlus experience until you decided, or you both decided actually, to go on to the next adventure?
Yeah, I think it was about 7 years.
Okay.
It's the longest it's been in any company. Like I never lasted more than 2 years anywhere, except nothing, obviously, now. And OnePlus. Like I've always been very, I don't know, impatient with this type of things and get bored easily. So,
that's an interesting point, because I think that now there's so much optionality in the workplace that a lot of people jump very quickly from company to company. Obviously, you had this experience yourself, so you can understand others. But I guess, what would happen if that happens within nothing now that it's your company?
You mean and that I get bored about?
No. I mean your employees. Like, how would you handle it?
But it happens. I mean, we have people that think that this is not for them and then decide to leave. We have people that, I don't know, like, I think from the outside, it's always something that you think it's going to be in a certain way, because you don't actually, I mean, how they say it is like, it's always pretty until you learn how the sausage is being made, or like something like that. I don't know exactly what the idiom is, but yeah, I think this happened to me back in the day when I was working on blogs. Like, there was one blog that I thought it was, like the best from the best, and then you start seeing the things from the inside and you think, okay, like there's some things that are indeed better than what were in the competitor, but then there's these other things that I thought they would do better, and actually the first guys, which are way smaller, do much better, and you get a bit disappointed. I think it happens everywhere. Like, the image that you project outwards obviously is going to be the Instagram style. It's like when you check Instagram and you see, I don't know, like a friend, they will not show you the bad moments. It's always know the trips, the parties, the new tech and stuff like that. I mean, in my case, it's never going to be like, I've had so many issues with this and this other product, like, and it's very frustrating. No? It's going to be like, look at my beautiful setup. Yeah, these type of things. But I think it's normal. Like, not the startup life can be quite tolling, to be completely honest. Not everyone is made for it, but I think it's always something that is good to try, at least, because one of the main advantages that these type of companies have, and I speak not only as one of the co-founders at Nothing, but also like having been in other startups, is that when you work for a large corporation, you don't feel like your work actually matters that much. And when you work for a smaller company, although it's tougher because you don't have the support, you don't have, I guess, like the experience that would come with a larger corporation, you do feel that the actions that you take actually have an outcome and have repercussions in the product, on the software, or whatever you are actually doing. So it's actually quite rewarding.
Thank you for that. So back to the original question, actually. We're at OnePlus. You've sold 1 million copies, 1 million smartphones.
Technically they're copies from the original one, yeah, sure.
After the first year. And then the question was kind of what happens until you and Carl decide that you are founding a new company?
A lot of things happen, actually. I mean, we released many devices. I think we were super confident that we were really, really good and we knew what we were doing after being so successful with our first product. Second one wasn't so successful. Third one and the rest were a bit better. But I think that was a humility lesson that we learned very early on, and it was good, because otherwise, I mean, if you do everything perfect, then I think it's hard to learn, and when you hit the wall, it's gonna hurt a lot
Even
more. So I think the paths, I guess, diverted a little bit. We saw that we had set up actually an office in India. We had the one in China. I was working from China, but then we were selling into Europe. And the European business, or what we used to call the global business, everything but China and India, was actually grabbing most of the sales and most of the profit for the company. And we didn't have an office over there. So they were like, David, we trust you. Go to Europe, open the office there. So I did that. We looked into Berlin, Stockholm, Madrid, Barcelona, London. Ended up settling for London, thinking that Brexit was not going to happen. And then Brexit happened. But well, I think right around that time when Brexit happened, I think we were already at, I don't know, OnePlus 6 maybe. Carl moved on to do more brand-related things and went to the US. And then I stayed in Europe. We had been doing a few tests with, I would say, some smaller countries within Europe to see if it was better to have a centralized team that kind of like manages the whole European business, or if it was better to actually have like small local teams that could activate things that were relevant locally. And I guess to surprise of nobody, the local teams were performing better because I guess they had a bit of a better understanding of the local nuances. So the company decided that it was important to actually have this type of teams. So I had the opportunity of basically staying in London, have a global role that was kind of like diminishing because we were giving power to the regions and to the countries. So I was given the choice of choosing a country and become a bit of a general manager, kind of like have control of the P&L and everything. I had a lot of experience back in the day in e-commerce, marketing, PR, no clue about actual sales, B2B, and how to handle all these things. So I was like, okay, let's take on this new role. Again, had a few countries to choose, and I was like, well, I mean, if we want to make it happen, I mean, I could do it in Germany or in the Netherlands, and probably it's gonna go well, but I'd rather do it in an easier way, especially because I'm trying to learn how things work. So let's choose Spain. In hindsight, probably was not the easiest choice. I mean, okay, I speak the language. That's definitely an advantage. However, the market is probably one of the wildest markets, I would say. A lot of competition, very thin margins for everyone. I think there's a lot more structured markets in Europe that would have been a lot easier to tackle. But anyways, so yeah, I set up the company in Spain. I think we did pretty good. Then because we did good, I was sent to another country and kind of like became with like, okay, you're gonna start countries. So go to Belgium. I did Belgium, pandemic hit, and then I was told, well, your next country is gonna be either Germany or Finland. And I was like, no, it's not gonna be. I'm quitting. I'm moving back, and that's it. The good thing is like, right before, I guess, like, well, no, actually, when I already made the decision, but I hadn't communicated it yet, there was the opportunity of actually getting back together and doing a last project with Carl and some of the people that have become also the other co-founders. Okay. So we launched
all the co-founders of Nothing are... Almost all were part of OnePlus.
Yes.
Almost. Okay.
Yes. And the thing was, we kind of like got together to launch one last project, which was the OnePlus North. And I think it was actually quite successful mid-range device. So the challenge with OnePlus is that we were there to challenge the status quo. And basically we had, I would say, a few key principles that we were not supposed to break, and that made us different. Like how we handle software, how we handle hardware, the way that we were selling, who was, I guess, like our target audience. And then with the time, we sort of became just another smartphone brand. Okay. And that was a thing. That, and I guess like having to move every 2 years from one country to another country, the main triggers for me to decide to leave. Okay. I think some of the co-founders had other reasons, but it just happens to be a happy coincidence. I mean, as I was saying, we got together, we launched OnePlus North. It felt a bit like a small last victory and a bit of like getting together like the good old days and launching a smartphone like that. That was very successful as well. And I don't know, it felt good. So when when I made the decision of, officializing that I was leaving, I decided to give a call to Carl. I was not reporting to him, but I thought, he hired me. I think I want to have the difference of like letting him know at the same time that I will let my boss know.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him a call and said, hey Carl, I'm about to hand in my resignation. I just wanted to let you know, thank you for the experience and like letting me join the team back in the day. And he told me, it's like, actually a few of us are also leaving, we should get together and do something. And I was like, okay, why not? And I guess that's a bit how it started.
And so that's the start of Nothing.
Yes.
What differentiates Nothing from other big players? Or I guess you can describe it at the start, right?
Sure.
What and why did you build Nothing?
Okay, so I see there's two different questions. Maybe let's start at the why.
Okay.
And then we can go into like what makes us different. But
okay.
I think the fact that we were part of the industry, I mean, Carl for a few more years than I was, but I was at OnePlus for, I guess, nearly 7 years. I think we saw a few things that we didn't quite like, that we thought that was wrong with the industry.
With the industry, you mean technology in general?
Technology in general, but like smartphones specifically. I think the race for specs, let's see who has a bigger camera, a bigger battery, can charge the phone faster. Will people use it? No, but it's great for marketing.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would you add these things that don't bring any value to the users? And it felt like, I don't know, we were doing a disservice to the user by adding more and more features that were just making the job of the marketeer or the salesperson easier, and not the life of the person who was actually paying for that easier. And I think that was a big motivation. There was also like a lot of chaos in terms of like different standards for smart home products and things like that. And I think also one of the most important things was like the smartphone industry had lost a bit of its soul. Back in the day, we were thinking that there were a lot of, when smartphones were not so smart, people had to innovate with design. Mm-hmm. And I think LG back in the day did some really cool things, and so did Nokia. Mm-hmm. Like phones that you could unfold like a video camera. Mm-hmm. I think LG Prada, LG Chocolate, like there were like a lot of like really interesting design concepts. And yeah, we felt that some of that essence had been lost. Mm-hmm. And the soul of smartphones was completely rotten. Okay. So we thought that we could bring back some of that design and some of that connection to people. I think especially with the rise of social media, mm-hmm. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I think people have lost a bit of the confidence that they had that technology would help them, will help humanity become better. And we just became the product. It's like, how can we get sold more ads so these guys can make more revenue? And yeah, we felt that people lost the trust and the confidence in technology. So we thought that we could try to bring that back. And I think that comes down a little bit to the transparency concept. It's like our phones and our products are transparent because we want to be transparent to our users and so on.
You mean transparent in terms of your communications, or you mean
communications,
like the physical aspect that it's
both? Actually, both.
Okay.
Both in our case, but at the same time, the transparency was, I guess, metaphorical, a metaphorical way to actually show that we are transparent to our users, and also at the same time give this bit of retro vibe of like when technology was seen as a good thing for humanity, as opposed to now.
Hi, can I ask you a quick favor? Every week, we dive into the stories of founders that do more than just make money. Our mission is to prove that a career in impact can be both purposeful and financially sustainable. If you believe in creating meaningful work, share today's episode with one friend who's ready to make a difference. It would mean a great deal to me. Your support is what keeps this show alive and growing. Thank you.
So what are the differences? Let's get into the what part.
So I think probably... there's one that is very clear, which is design.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the reality is we are a small company. We have very few ways of competing against the big players. We don't have the resources in terms of like R&D that Samsung or these big players have. So the ways that we can innovate is with design, which is, I think, quite apparent when you see our products. Mm-hmm. I will not show you the one that I have in my pocket because we haven't released it yet. Then the other one will be software. I think we have a clear vision, which is like technology should be an enabler for you to do things in your life and do them in a way that is better. However, the reality is like technology has become something that competes for your attention, something that kind of like makes you dumb scroll through an infinite amount of TikToks, Reels, stories, or whatever you want to use in terms of app. And the way that we approach software is a bit kind of like counterintuitive. Like if you don't use your phone, that's good. If you use it, do it with intent. Like actually do something that you actually want to do. Don't, go on Google Maps and end up, I don't know, like going to Spotify and listening to like a random music list or scrolling through different lists and not actually getting to where you wanted to go. So I would say that would be the second one in terms of like differentiating point. And I think the third one has to do with what I was saying. It's like we are not in the race of spec. We try to provide a good user experience, and that's what is king to us. Doesn't matter if we have the largest megapixel camera in the device. What it matters is that it actually does its job. Like, does it take good pictures? Yes. Then we are fulfilling, our mission. Doesn't matter if it's, do you need 5 cameras? Probably not.
Yeah.
So we will not give you 5 cameras. So it's this type of, I would say, principles that guide the way that we make our products, the ones that make us a bit different.
There's a fourth one, which is sustainability.
Sure.
But I'm going to leave that for a bit later in the
Yes.
conversation because I want to give it more importance. How many products do you sell right now at Nothing?
In terms of like volume of products, or?
First, in terms of type. So how many products you have in
Okay.
your ecosystem?
So I think for now we have, I would say, 3 types. So we have audio products, basically earphones. We have smartphones. So I would say it's the core of our business. And then we have, as part of our sub-brand, which is a bit more affordable, it's called CMF. We have audio as well, but we have also a smartwatch.
And how about the volumes?
But and we also have apparel, but I would say, and we have also made beers. I think it's a bit more of a side project for us.
Okay. And how about the volumes?
Volumes I cannot comment exactly, but I think we made a bit over $500 million in revenue last year.
Wow. I'm wondering, like, where you are pacing in terms of how many users do you have in terms of the phone, for example? If it's public.
That will be no, it's not public. That will be disclosed in
Okay.
the sales numbers.
Fair enough. You were speaking about the first 3 differences of Nothing
Yes.
versus other smartphones. What are the behavioral outcomes that you expect to see from Nothing users versus iPhone users, for example?
I actually think actual usage and intentionality on the usage of the device. So as I was saying, I mean, I cannot speak for iOS. Like it's been a while since I used an Apple smartphone, but I think they're trying because I think they give you the screen on time and a few kind of like reports. But I think we make a bit more of a conscious decision of like giving you the option of having a monochrome theme, so kind of like black and white, to see if you want. Or to say if you want to have the notifications bubble or not in the app. And then we have the whole glyph system that basically when you flip your phone, you have some lights in the back that will give you information about like who's calling, or if you have an important notification, which means that you can be a bit more present right here, right now, as opposed to like being always on your phone and like, I don't know, I mean, you see every day a lot of couples in a restaurant and they are in front of each other, they're having lunch or dinner, and they're on their phones. They're not talking to each other. They're just browsing, whatever.
So Nothing has obviously a different operating system, software operating system. Could I have, for example, the same apps that I have on my iPhone on my Nothing?
Yes, I mean, it's based off Android.
Okay.
And I would say, I mean, there might be a few apps that maybe are on iOS and are not on Android, and the other way around.
Okay.
But I think...
But mostly yes.
Yeah, mostly yes. And actually, I think we have a decent amount of iPhone users switching to Nothing phones.
That was my next question, because I've been an Apple user for a very long time. I have different Apple devices, but I love Nothing for all the reasons that you've said. I love the design. I love the fact that it's sustainable. I like the intentionality of it. How do you convince me to come to Nothing or to switch to Nothing, considering that I've been for so long tied to another company?
I mean, I'm not trying to convince anyone. If the product is right for you, then I think that's perfect. What I would probably encourage you, considering our price point, I think is fairly affordable is to try our earphones. And if you're happy with them, then maybe you can give us a chance on the smartphone.
I like the answer.
I mean, the thing is, like, back in the day, I think the iPod and the iPhone were Trojan horses for Apple to get people to buy a MacBook. And that worked for them fairly well. I want to think of our earphones, considering that they are device agnostic, so you can use them with your computer, with your gaming system, with your iPhone, with your iPad, with an Android phone. It doesn't have to be ours. And they work very well. That I think, it's the perfect product when you're not sure if you trust the brand or not. I would say it's a fairly safe investment.
Another big differentiation piece, as I just mentioned, is that nothing is doing things right in the tech industry.
Some, maybe.
Can you give us one or two examples of why and how is nothing sustainable?
Okay. I didn't kind of like say it as one of the key pillars, because we discussed this before starting the podcast, but I think we started being, I guess, very proactive with how we were doing things in a better way. I wouldn't say the right way, but in a better way when it comes to manufacturing and so on. Back in the day, we have, I guess, our yearly social responsibility report where we explain what sort of actions are we trying to take towards, I guess, like being a bit more sustainable and a bit more conscious of how we use certain resources. But the reality is, like, we have seen that if you put the option of basically having two different price points, the more expensive being, I guess, like a bit more sustainable, people still choose the cheaper one. So the fact that we are not proactively or very proactively marketing, the fact that we are trying to be more sustainable is also something that we have kind of learned while doing the job. It's like, it's a nice thing to have, but it's not a must. So we don't give the option, we're doing it. Because we think that's also one of the big issues that our industry has, like all the pollution and all the landfill issues, especially in third world countries, where all these, I guess, like residues end up in. And we don't want to be part of that, or we want to try to be less part of that. And answering your question, I guess I'll give you maybe 3 examples. Please. Instead of 2. I think it's been probably since the beginning that we have been using I guess renewable energies in the manufacturing process. So all the products that we manufacture use for eolic or solar energy.
Where do you manufacture?
We have different partners. So as a company, we have the base in the UK. Unfortunately, there's not many factories that do this type of products at this scale in Europe or in the US. So the reality is, like, we manufacture, depending on the product, whatever is best to manufacture. So let's say mostly China and India. Again, depends on the product. We try to choose the best factory. I assume that if in the future there's, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but like Malaysia, Vietnam, somewhere else that can do the same things at the same scale with the same quality, then we will not have any issues to move there. And I guess in a way we are a bit like Apple, that we design, but then we kind of like source the manufacturing process, although we have a very good control over it, especially on QA and QC, so quality assurance, quality control. But yeah, so renewable energies, that's one of the things. The second thing, which is also a fairly easy one, is like no plastic in the packaging. So like everything is as recycled as we can in terms of like cardboard and things like that. We try, as I was saying, to not use any plastics in the packaging. I think most of the manufacturers are moving towards that direction, because I would say it's fairly easy to do that. But then I think the most difficult one has to do with the manufacturing itself and the recycling. So we make earphones, and those are made in one factory, but we also make smartphones, and those are made in a different factory. Out of, I guess, like the production of the earphones, we have some plastic that actually would go to waste. So instead of like throwing it away and disposing of it, we recycle it, and we actually use it for some parts of the internal components that go into the smartphones. So this way we're able to actually shorten the recycling cycle and also upcycle some of these products that come out from, I guess, like waste of manufacturing of the earphones.
So just to make sure that I understand it, the waste, the
some,
part of the
some plastic waste that come out from making earphones actually go into our smartphones.
Other products. Okay.
Yes.
In specific smartphones.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I think all in all, last year, I don't know if it was like we used 40 or 60 tons of recycled material that save around 800 tons of CO2 production.
Congratulations on that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, we always strive to do better, and hopefully we can get into a few more things. But I think probably for us it's also a little bit easier than it will be for one of these big players. Like, we don't have to change hundreds of lines of production to follow the ways that we do things, because we have a much smaller scale. But that's the thing, is like, we could try to save a few bucks here and there and do it, let's say, the less good way for the environment. But we feel that it's not worth to save, a few bucks here and there and pollute the environment even more.
Absolutely. One thing that I love about Nothing is its branding and communication style. It's super fun, it's fresh, it's fast-paced. What emotion are you appealing to with your communication?
That's a good question. It depends.
Okay.
But I think as long as there's an emotion, it doesn't matter. So I think one of the things that I learned back in my blogger days, so it was a bit tricky, but I think most of the blogs, usually the way that they work is like they will have certain KPIs for the bloggers. If you're able to get into the 30 most read articles, then you get a bit of an incentive. What do? You're polarizing. Can I write a blog post about, I don't know, like a very vanilla topic? Yes, I can, but I know it's not going to get into those top 30. So what I'm going to do, just be disruptive, be polarizing. You're going to love me or you're going to hate me, but I will be making you feel something and you will have an opinion. So I think that's probably what we're going for. It depends on the video. It depends on the way that we communicate. It depends on the social media. But yeah, any feeling.
Yeah, I think you're definitely achieving that. I feel a lot of things when I look at your adverts and the products, and even just on LinkedIn, how the different products are shown. I think it's amazing to see that not only you're evoking different emotions, but also you're evoking the feeling of coolness. Nothing is cool. So for young people and people wanting to show what they think through the products that they buy, it has everything. I
mean, it's a bit of a mix, no? We tend to refer to it as a technical warmth. So like people need to feel, that it's a bit of a contrast, no? You feel that we are cool, and that's the intention. It's like we are hip and trendy and upcoming company and a bit of a trendsetter, hopefully. But I think what we want people is to feel in technology they can trust. So it's this technical warmth. It's like it feels in a way familiar, and it's something that you can definitely trust.
What is strategic about your business model and your pricing?
I think there's maybe a couple of things. The first one, as I mentioned before, I think has to do with the way that we configure the product. Again, we are not in this spec war because we know we will lose. Like somebody will have better specs and better price than us, for sure. But I think what we offer is a bit of an alternative to what it's out there. And we offer, I would say, an experience that as a user feels right. So we're not trying to upsell you on having, as I was saying before, 5 cameras when you might be okay with 2, 3, maybe 4, depending on the product and the use case. But we try to be very honest with how we approach, I would say, the way that we build products from a hardware perspective or from a software perspective.
I want to get into the capitalism side of things.
Sure.
I think we were also discussing about the definitions of social innovation, social entrepreneurship, and at the end of the day, all these innovations happen because capitalism, in this case, has created certain problems in the first place.
Yes.
Which analogy can you see between what's gone wrong with capitalism and what's gone wrong with technology?
It's quite a challenging question, and a very smart one, but I think it's a bit difficult sometimes to define what's gone wrong with capitalism.
We can start there.
There's a lot of things, a lot of things that are right and a lot of things that are very wrong
absolutely.
with it. But I think I see that we can see some of these things also happening in tech. And I think one of the ones that I can see more clear that mimics, I guess, some of the issues from capitalism is how bigger companies have more power. Which I guess comes down to literally, more volume, more sales, more money. So at the end of the day, it's like linked one-to-one to one of the biggest issues with capitalism. And what we see is like virtual monopolies. And it's very difficult to break through. And I think it happens something quite similar also with capitalism. Like the wealth is concentrated in very few people.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to come from, I guess, like a humble background and break through the noise that we're trying to do and get to I wouldn't say the level of the big players, but like the level of Rockefeller or Warren Buffett, it's impossible. And I think that's one of the big problems that normal people are facing. And I think one of the other issues that we see, and I also can see a bit of parallelism with smartphones, is that profit and money in capitalism is more important than people. And I think here something similar happens with smartphones. It's like specs and being able to shout louder about something being bigger or having more or being faster is more important than the user itself and how, and if it's going to be useful for the user or not. A very easy example would be the speed of charging a device. There's been a lot of innovation recently, but it has reached a point that it has become ridiculous. So
as in like what people are trying to reach, the speed that
yes, so I'll give some context because I understand that maybe some of our listeners and viewers are not very familiar with the smartphone industry, but like over the past, I would say 10 years or so, there's been a bit of a change with like how the smartphones charge and the technology that they use to be able to actually charge faster. Essentially, back in the day, the standard was like 5 volts, 2 amperes, so 10 watts, and that was the highest speed that you could potentially get. And then some changes in how the battery is managed and how the heat is dissipated basically ended up getting us to speeds that were first 20, 30, 65, 100 plus watts. Now, the funny thing here is like we run a few studies back at OnePlus because we were one of the innovators back in the day with fast charging, and so on, warp charge. And what we saw was that people didn't actually people still charge overnight. So the fast charging was something nice to have and something that could help them maybe get out of like a tough situation if, the phone didn't charge in the night for whatever reason. But the reality is like most people were still charging overnight. Overnight doesn't make any sense to have fast charging because you're charging, let's say 6, 7, 8 hours. Yeah. So a slow charger would still do the trick. However, we have now devices that can do 150 watts, and the funny thing is like your battery cannot sustain this type of like high super fast charging for a very long time because it would damage the battery. So you might get 150 watts for like 1 minute, and then it goes down and throttles down because if you charge at that speed and you overcharge the battery, it can get damaged, it can explode. So it gets a bit tricky, but the reality is like there's a lot of companies that are really loud and explaining, how good their device is because it can charge at crazy speeds. When it's something that it costs a lot of money to develop, but in reality it's not something that people need. I think all this money would have been better spent in trying to develop a better kind of battery that will last longer, so then people have to charge less, as opposed to like being really fast at charging.
So you're investing more in the solution rather than into solving the problem itself. Yeah. That could be the parallelism. So would you say that your goal is to change technology or to change the way we think about technology? Or we can say smartphones, if you prefer.
No, technology is fine. We see ourselves as a tech company, not necessarily... we do smartphones, that's our core business, but hopefully in the future we can branch out and do a few more things. I would say both, but I think mainly the second one. I think people need to change about how they think about technology and how they feel about technology and how they use technology. Again, I think it should be, I think Steve Jobs put it in a very eloquent way, no? It's like computers are bicycles for the mind. The smartphone is, at the end of the day, a very small computer.
So when we look back at nothing 10 years from now, what should it represent?
I think it should be seen maybe as a company that people can trust on. I think the main keyword for me would be trust. If we're able to still be around in 10 years or in 50 years, I think that's going to be a huge achievement. I think in this industry it's really difficult to survive. But we firmly believe that we can do it. That's why we're still here. And I think the fact that we are around more than 4 years in, it's already a testament that we've done a few things right. I think we have seen a lot of companies start and basically die after the first product. We've done a few already. So I think we're not safe, because we're never safe in the startup world, but I think we have hopefully a very bright future. But I think if we're able to get people to trust again in tech, then I think we will have achieved one of our key pillars and key missions.
I'm thinking, if nothing, it's trying to be more intentional about how we use technology,
Mhm.
or in this case, a smartphone, for example, it's a good example. Is it one of the objectives that we use technology less?
Not necessarily. I think back in the day when we first started the company, we did a fairly cool brand video before we even have any products. And I think one of the key sentences was like, imagine like technology fades away, kind of like like everything feels like it's magic. So I don't think we need to use less technology, but we need to do it in a way that is a bit less intrusive in our lives and that is a bit more meaningful.
Thank you. I have one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's one business you would start tomorrow if you had to pick something different from what you're doing today?
Okay. So I studied biomedicine. I think there is an interesting comparisons now between technology, medicine, and specifically AI. So probably a company that did something related to medicine using some sort of AI, whether it's for new drug discovery. There's a lot of like rare diseases that are affecting a lot of people. There is also obviously the grail, which would be to find a cure for cancer. There's also I would say the impending doom that we have now with superbugs, and I think all these different areas could potentially benefit from having a company that takes advantage of AI and learning about certain patterns, how certain proteins fold in certain ways to create new medicines, to be able to generate and accelerate maybe the drug discovery and hopefully find, as I was saying, cures for or antibiotics for things that we are not able to cure.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for having come here, and thank you for showing us that a company can challenge the status quo and can actually work hard to do things better.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.